Good evening from New York. The torture debate ended today. It was at 8:40 a.m. Central Daylight Time. It was in the most unlikely of venues, the radio studio of a Chicago shock jock named Eric Mancow Muller, fully of the right to the degree that he once claimed on air that Barack Obama was a secret Muslim, then called then DNC Chairman Howard Dean a, quote, traitor, and once insisted with no qualifications that waterboarding was not torture. Our fifth story in the countdown. And then he had himself waterboarded today to prove that it was not torture.
How long is the average person, can they take this?
About 14 seconds.
14 seconds?
That's the average, 14 seconds done properly, yeah.
Now, we've got to get your face covered here, all right?
Here we go.
We're going to get it nice and wet.
He's dunking the cloth in a bucket of water now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get ready to put it over your face, okay?
Okay.
All right, it's going over Mancow's face.
Should you cover my mouth, too?
No, we want to see you scream.
We want to see him scream. All right. All right, we're coming up here. All right, EMT Rossi standing by?
Yes.
All right. All right, good luck, my friend.
Don't move your head, okay? One.
You gonna hold my nose?
Yeah, I'm holding your nose. I'm holding his nose as he speaks, okay?
Move down a little. You're squeezing the top of my nose. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Well, I have to get over here that way.
All right.
I can get a good grip.
All right, here's the bucket of water in his hand.
All right.
The sergeant is over Mancow's head.
We're going to do it on 5, okay?
Okay.
1, 2, I lied.
Ooh, water going. All right, that's it. That's it. All right.
Oh, God.
Mancow is soaked.
Oh.
Mancow is soaked. We all got a little water on him. How you doing, buddy? All right.
Oh.
You're soaked, man. How do you feel? You want the EMT?
No.
The EMT's here.
No, it's okay. It is.
Catch your breath.
I'm fine. It is way worse than I thought it would be. And it is way worse than I thought it would be. And that's no joke.
Would you consider that torture?
Look, all that's been done to this country, and I heard about water being dropped on someone's face, and I never considered torture. Even when I was laying there, I thought this is going to be no big deal. I go swimming. It's going to be like being in the tub. It is such an odd feeling to have water poured down your nose and your mouth with your head back. It was instantaneous. I thought I could hold out 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It was instantaneous, and I don't want to say this. I do not want to say this. Absolutely torture.
You do?
Absolutely. I mean, that's drowning.
Absolutely torture, he says. That's drowning, he says. If he were being interrogated in that way, he added later, I would confess to anything. Mr. Muller lasted 6 seconds, and he, unlike prisoners who were waterboarded, had a toy cow that he could throw, and he had had enough. And he, unlike prisoners who were waterboarded, obviously knew it would end. He knew it would not kill him, and he, unlike prisoners who were waterboarded, was not subject to any other potential element of being a prisoner, like confinement or sleep deprivation or temperature extremes, or having it done to him another 182 times. As a healthy 42-year-old man, Mr. Muller underwent what might be easily called the Rolls-Royce version of waterboarding. 6 seconds torture. Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst, contributor to the Huffington Post, Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence, good evening.
Good to be with you, Keith.
Let's recall one of the lines from Mr. Cheney's speech yesterday. To call this a program of torture is to libel dedicated professionals. Did this demonstration pretty much tell Mr. Cheney where he could put that sentiment?
Finally, yes, Keith. And the fact that it comes from the conservative side of the radio world, I think, gives it more credibility even. I spoke to a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL last week, who went through this process in the training programs that we've all heard about. He said it was torture. He said there are, even though you know that they're going to stop, it feels like drowning. It is supposed to feel like drowning. That's what the radio guy just said, that it was drowning. And so waterboarding is an inadequate term for what the torture is. The torture is drowning. And if they continue it, you will drown. You can be drowned this way, and you are meant to feel like you're drowning. And that's exactly what he experienced. You feel like you're dying. That is torture.
And this is the right guy to have done this, and I credit him for doing this because he didn't reveal this till afterwards, but as a child he said he had, in fact, had drowned and had to be revived. So he knew what he was talking about when he said it's not just that it's torture, it is drowning. Is the failure perhaps to get this point across the simple semantics of this, the terminology? Could it be that that's simply stupid, that people actually believed, as he said, it was some water being poured on the face, that the point has not been made sufficiently? It is not artificial or simulated drowning. It's drowning, and then they stop it just before you die.
Well, this is a guy who's been listening to the debate, obviously, you know, for the better part of a year, and had an impression that you are on a board and someone pours water on your face, and big deal. He has discovered what a big deal it is. And look, there's an account that I've read on the air at MSNBC of someone who was waterboarded in that training program that the military runs, and he said that he experienced it as torture when he went through it. He gave a very detailed account of it, and the more of this that we can see, and if Sean Hannity is ever going to step up to your challenge, it can only advance our knowledge about what this actually is. I think the key word is drowning. That's what we should be shifting.
It's unlikely Vice President Cheney will ever face torture, making it that much easier for him to continue his campaign against people like the Chicago radio man seeing the light, as he did yesterday in his speech defending the Bush administration's torture program. The former vice president claiming that the rest of us have failed to understand exactly what happened at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, and more importantly, why it happened.
In public discussion of these matters, there has been a strange and sometimes willful attempt to conflate what happened at Abu Ghraib with top-secret program of enhanced interrogations. At Abu Ghraib, a few sadistic prison guards abused inmates in violation of American law, military regulation, and simple decency. For the harm they did to Iraqi prisoners and to America's cause, they deserved and received Army justice.
Former Brigadier General Janice Karpinski, of course, ran the U.S. prisons in Iraq after the invasion and was demoted after Abu Ghraib. She's the author of One Woman's Army. The commanding general of Abu Ghraib tells her story. Thanks for coming in again.
Glad to be back with you.
Cheney claims that what happened in Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with the Bush administration and its interrogation policy. You heard that again, and as many times as it's played, it still is novel, to say the least. What is your response to what he claims?
I mean, once again, he chooses the words and the expression that just flabbergasted me. But then you are suggesting, Mr. Cheney, that your memorandums and all of those lawyers that sat together countless times and developed those techniques to step outside of the law and redefine torture, they think the same way that these young soldiers think? Because it's got to be a tremendous coincidence that these soldiers did exactly what your memos said they could do. Now, maybe they didn't have the privilege of seeing those memos. I feel pretty confident that they didn't. But there were people there who did, who had experience at Guantanamo Bay or at Bagram in Afghanistan, and came to Iraq and gave them the instructions on what to do and how to do it. Because I don't believe it's an extraordinary coincidence.
Reasonable men and reasonable women could have a debate, probably endlessly, about the validity and to what degree and in what cases of the phrase and the meaningfulness of the phrase, they were only following orders. But presumably it's a fairly, if it's true at all, it's presumably a fairly consistent truth. There should be a series of recognizable circumstances in which it's always true or it's always false. The CIA waterboarders get Cheney's praise, but the grunts at Abu Ghraib and their superior officers get punishment and jail. That does not seem to be a consistent approach when the explanation is identical.
Well, I think that the problem for Mr. Cheney is that if you hold those contractors, those CIA contractors, responsible, and they need to answer to a Senate Armed Services Committee or some other committee, now all of a sudden they're under fire and they're going to tell the truth. Right now they've been excused, so the truth is not so significant to them. The soldiers, on the other hand, knew from the beginning that the truth was the only thing that they could tell that would serve them properly. Of course, it didn't work out that way in the end because the administration had different objectives in mind.
What do you think Mr. Cheney's objectives were yesterday? Is this about defending U.S. policy? Is it about defending the safety of people in this country, or is it a little narrower focus than that?
I think his statement and his policy is Mr. Cheney. The two are inseparable now. So he is defending himself and his service during the 8 years in the administration. I don't think he wants to tell all of the story. He certainly doesn't want to bring up hunting or anything else again, but the policies clearly define him. He is determined to make them the truth. As he used the lawyers to redefine torture, he himself now is the representative to define this was the right thing to do.
You saw that waterboarding tape we just played. Rabid, conservative radio guy with the experience of drowning, but nearly dying as a kid. And he knew this wasn't torture. He knew it wasn't. 6 seconds in, he is out there, and he's as rabid as the rest of us are. It's torture. He said it's drowning. He said if they were using it on him, he would confess to anything. Has there ever been any doubt in your mind that that's torture?
None whatsoever. It is torture. It is torture. It was painful to watch, and this is a tape. So I imagine an Iraqi detainee or a person that's been policed up and held under U.S. confinement, subjected to this, not once, but 85 times or over 100 times. They do not have the luxury of knowing they're going to survive. Yes, there were doctors available in case there was an emergency,
right.
But those prisoners, those detainees did not know it. This was authorized. That's what Mr. Cheney is defending.
Yeah, and that's also, by the way, part one of the detainees' day. The rest of it involves going back to cells and wondering when they're going to go do it to you again. Janice Karpinski, former Brigadier General in charge of the prison system in Iraq. Great thanks once again for coming in.
Thank you.
Have a good week.